MSNBC's Martin Bashir sparking outrage over what he said about Sarah Palin. Is his apology enough? Our Howard Kurtz weighs in. All right, we are back. MSNBC host Martin Bashir is now apologizing to former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin after suggesting that someone should defecate on the former VP nominee because of comments that she made. He says his comments were, quote, wholly unacceptable. Watch this.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say sorry to Mrs. Palin and to also offer an unreserved apology to her friends and family, her supporters, our viewers, and anyone who may have heard what I said.
Howard Kurtz is a Fox News media analyst, and he's the host of Media Buzz. I mean, this is unbelievable, Howard. I don't know how you get away with saying something like this on cable news, national television. What do you think of all this?
Well, it's sad, pathetic, and disgusting. And Martin Bashir isn't just a cable news host. He's the former co-anchor of Nightline, so he has had a significant journalistic career. I'm glad he apologized. He talked about the politics of vitriol and destruction, of which he's been a prime practitioner. He has a very slashing and personal style. But where are his bosses at MSNBC? Not a syllable from the network executives. There has been no disciplinary action that we know of, no suspension of Martin Bashir, even though MSNBC a couple of years ago had suspended another talk show host, Ed Schultz, for calling Laura Ingraham a right-wing slut. This is, I'm not justifying that. This is so far worse. It is so beyond the pale that I even hesitated to bring it up on my show because it's pretty gross.
No, I know. When we talked about it this morning, it was just, you know, how do you even verbalize what this man said? And yet, you know, he said it and he has apologized. But you make a great point. I mean, Ed Schultz was suspended. Alec Baldwin suspended as well. I'm not sure why Martin Bashir is getting treated so differently, especially given the fact that what he said, I think in most people's minds, is even more reprehensible than what these two folks said on their shows. I mean, where does this go from here? I mean, how is it that he's able to keep doing this show after having said this? Can you imagine, as you point out, I think, you know, if somebody of the caliber of his competitors at that hour, Neil Cavuto or Jake Tapper, said anything like this about Hillary Clinton or any other public figure, what would be going on in this country?
Right. I wrote that in my Fox News column. MSNBC would be jumping up and down about this all day long. And now, what Sarah Palin, who's a Fox News contributor, said, she gave a controversial speech in which she likened the national debt to slavery. A lot of people didn't like that. I think it's fair game for criticism. But to talk about it, and here's another important point, Martha. This wasn't an offhand, off-the-cuff remark of a type that many of us might make when you're on television, live television a lot. This was a long, scripted read off of a teleprompter, in which he talked about the way slaves were punished in the 1750s, and that wished that Sarah Palin would be a good candidate for that same kind of punishment, namely defecation. That means an executive producer had to see it in advance. So it is amazing to me, that he said it. I'm glad he apologized, but that MSNBC hasn't done anything about this, and I can't quite figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you figure it out. I mean, it suggests that they don't think it's a big deal, that when it comes to certain people, all bets are off, that it's okay to pick on these people because of their beliefs, I guess.
Right. Now, I hear a lot of harsh things said on cable news, and not just by liberals, but, to bring the discourse down to this level, I mean, he starts out by calling Palin a dunce and an idiot, and that's par for the course from Martin Bashir, and I guess that plays to the MSNBC base when he clearly despises Republicans, but to go this step further and to not have anything said about it by his network, and to still be on the air the next day. He said it on a Friday. He was on the air yesterday, Monday, when he made the apology. Says something about the standards at the network, and I think that the criticism is going to build, and MSNBC is going to be forced to address these remarks by Martin Bashir.
Well, you've written a fascinating piece about it, Howard, today, so I suggest everybody read the whole thing through and think about it, and maybe send your thoughts to MSNBC, and maybe they'll respond to you for your show. So we'll see.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you, Howard. Howard Kurtz.
As he said, not a syllable yet.
No, nothing.
Yet.